What is up, guys? In today's update, we got the Crash Pad Juniors added back to the loot pool, which is going to be a mobility item. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below what you think of the Crash Pad Juniors being added back to the game, and if you were going to use these instead of the other mobility items. So if you guys played in Chapter 4, you're probably well aware of how the Crash Pad Juniors work, because if I remember correctly, they were in both Seasons 3 and 4. I think they got added for the summer update in Season 3, and then I think they were in Season 4 as well. But if you haven't played with them in the game, it's a mobility item, and I think it's one of the most simple and easy to use mobility items in Fortnite, and that's kind of the main point of its value, in my opinion, is just that it's easy to use. So with the Crash Pad Junior, if you throw it down, you basically just bounce off of it. And one of the things that makes it super easy to use is that you can just hit your jump button twice to use the Crash Pad Junior, or if you're falling, you can hit your jump button and it will deploy the Crash Pad Junior. So you don't need to worry about swapping to it in your inventory and then throwing it and then walking in the direction you want to go with Shockwaves, or with the Grapple Blade where you have to swap to it and then look to what you want to connect to. With the Crash Pad Juniors, you could just walk a direction, hit your jump button twice, and then you'll be out of there. This does get kind of awkward sometimes if you're trying to jump and then mantle something. The game might throw the Crash Pad instead. You got to be careful there. But overall, it's a super easy mobility item. And you can also just throw it down and then sprint into it or walk into it. And when it is thrown down, it will stay there for a few seconds, but it will deflate and if someone shoots it. So that kind of makes it useful for an entire team using it, which is something we'll get to later on in the video. When I was streaming this morning, I thought you needed to throw it down and then sprint into it, and you would get an added effect while sprinting. But you can actually just sprint and then hit your jump button twice while sprinting, and you will go further than if you walked into it, or if you were walking when you hit your double jump button. So it actually is a little bit easier to use than I thought it was. For some reason, when I was playing this morning, I thought you needed to throw it down and then sprint into it to get that further jump, but you can activate this without swapping to it or throwing it down. You just have to sprint and then double jump, and you will go a bit further than if you were walking. And again, it just carries you in the direction that you were going. So it's a pretty simple item. You don't need to swap to it. And that's its main benefit. And also, if you have this flowberry effect, you will go further, like pretty much all the other mobility items this season. But from my experience with the flowberry effect, you did have to throw it down first. So there's basically two ways you can activate it. Like I've touched on, you can just throw it down and then walk into it, or you can do your double jump. Basically, when I had the flowberry effect and I tried to do the double jump, it I wouldn't land on it properly, or I would end up going straight up. So when you have the flowberry effect, I think you want to have the pad on the ground and then sprint into it while you have the flowberry effect, and you will go pretty far. Unfortunately though, for some reason, when I tried to do this, there was times where it wouldn't let me just smoothly sprint onto the Crash Pad, and I would kind of have to work around it and then find an angle where it would let me kind of get on it. But I don't know if that's just a me problem or what. I don't know if other people were experiencing that, but there were times where it definitely wasn't working how it was supposed to. But when you get the flowberry sprint effect with it, you will go pretty far, and I think that's also one of the main points of value for it. But that's also not unique. I had a lot of people bringing this up today when I was streaming and telling me about this, but it's not like the Crash Pad Juniors are the only item that has this. Every mobility item in the game kind of benefits from having the flow effect. If you flowberry and then shockwave, you're going to go further. If you flowberry and then launchpad, you're going to go further. And overall, I just think both the Shockwaves and the Grapple Blade are much better than the Crash Pads, but I don't think they're terrible. I just think they're kind of C tier, while both the Grapple Blade and the Shockwaves are probably A or S tier, I would say. So I think it's the weakest or worst mobility item in the game right now. I think the main reasons you would want to use these is just if you can't get a good feel for the other mobility items for some reason, if you just have a hard time swapping to your mobility or thinking about how you're going to use it proactively, because if you get engaged on, it can be tough for some players to swap to their Shockwaves and then Shockwave out of that fight in a direction they want to go, or swap to their Grapple Blade and then Grapple Blade to a direction they want to go to, all while getting shot. Whereas with this, if you walk in the direction you want to go, hit your double jump, you'll go in that direction, and that does make it a little bit easier to use. Also, if you couldn't find Shockwaves or a Grapple Blade yet, I think these are fine mobility. Like I said, I don't think they're bad. I just feel like they're kind of average, and the other mobility items are super good. So if you haven't found Shockwaves or a Grapple Blade yet, I definitely would rather have these than no mobility, and the spawn rate for them is pretty high. And then the final reason I think you might want to use the Crash Pad Juniors is going to be in team game modes, because it is going to be much easier to move an entire team and go in the direction you want to go with the crash pads if you have somebody carrying these. So because, you know, if you try to shockwave as a team, it can be rough. If you try to like some combination of some players having shockwaves and some players having grapples, or maybe some players having no mobility, it could be tough to all kind of end up where you need to end up at the same time. Whereas with the crash pad, one player can carry it, throw it down, and then everybody can just kind of sprint into it and then go where they need to go. So if you want to move an entire team and kind of get there together and not have to worry about, you know, one player messing up somehow or one player not having mobility and just constantly being behind, that would be maybe a good point of use for this. And then, you know, the flow berries also do work as an AoE item. You know, you can use the Flowberry Fizz and everybody in your team will get affected near you. Or if you use a Flowberry, everyone near you will get affected. So you could, you know, throw that on the crash pad, maybe somebody Flowberry Fizzes, and then you all Flowberry sprint into the crash pad and kind of get where you need to go rather quickly as a team. And I think that is going to be one of the main points of value of this item, is just going to be in team game modes, or if you haven't found mobility yet, or if you just really cannot get a good feel for the other items. I think this one is just much easier to plug and play, although I would recommend trying to get used to the Shockwaves, trying to get used to the Grapple Blade. The Grapple Blade is new, but like the Shockwaves have been in the game on and off since like Chapter 1, Season 6, so it's like one of those things where like if you take the time to learn it now and try to get used to it, you'll have that skill for several seasons of Fortnite, you know, once you kind of develop it. Whereas if you just don't ever try to practice with Shockwaves or don't ever try to get used to them, every time they're in the meta, it's going to maybe come back to bite you, you know? So these are good. And if you want to do better now as someone who doesn't really have a good feel for the mobility items, that can work. But overall, I would recommend trying to use one of the other items unless you're playing a team game mode and see value in the fact that everyone can kind of use it together. There's definitely a case for that. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found it helpful, informative, interesting. As always, if you did, remember to give it a like. Subscribe if you like some more. Comment down below what you think of the Crash Pad Juniors. I'm going to let some gameplay play out that I got on stream this morning, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. You want a super relaxing game? I mean, I think Lego Fortnite's got you covered. There you go. I think that's supposed to be relaxing and peaceful. Is there like enemies to fight in Lego Fortnite? I genuinely know nothing about it. There's probably like monsters, right? Imagine how funny would it be if they added a random encounter where like you would get attacked by a bunch of gray superhero skins in Lego form. The sweats try to like raid your village, and then you gotta like fend them off. And then Lego Fortnite players can also complain about sweats ruining the game. That's how Epic has to like unite the entire like Fortnite ecosystem. But I've like destroyed almost every bush in this zone. And oh, there's one. He's looking at him. He's going to that new bush. And this is the other one. Oh, that was actually the grenade NPC. But I expect that maybe that player's in that bush. I don't know. The NPC is like pretty far from this guy. I don't know if he directed it to be over there or what. Where is he going? I don't know where he went. He's still behind the rock. That's tragic. I think I can just get this guy out of the game. Dylan's running up that way. No, he's behind that rock that other player was previously behind. I feel like I see people using this grenade NPC so much more in Chapter 5 than any of the other times it was in the game, or I guess just Chapter 4 is when they added those specialist NPCs. That's not ideal. He got back to that bush quickly. Okay, I didn't want to challenge him initially. Like, I kind of wanted to just, like, fight him and bait out a snipe and then rechow him. But once he started shooting me with the pistol, I was down to fight him. I just didn't know if he had a sniper out initially. And it doesn't really matter if your aim is good. If you're just, like, full beaming somebody with an AR, they can still just, like, snipe you, you know?